today we're pleased to welcome three speakers. Josh Spitzer, the COO and CFO of Onyx. Josh is also one of our board members. Ryan Hansen, the founder and CEO of Lumenad, which is also transitioning to include other companies like Pathlabs, which we're excited to hear about that reorganization today. And also Kate Pace, the Director of Strategy Operations for Cognizant ATG. Kate has been the lead point person, one of the key point people in bringing this building on board that you're all sitting in right now. So we're really excited to talk to Kate today as well. And so to kick things off, I'm going to pass the mic down to the panel here, but if you can tell us your own story. So first tell us about yourselves, where you're from, your education, and your career path up to now.
I am Josh. I've been kicking around Montana for a couple of years, I guess since 2007 or so, and I've been at Onyx since 2016. My career path to get me out here was somewhat serendipitous after I went to graduate school. I had met someone who spent time here in California who enticed me to come out and work with him on a project that was buying and managing branch line properties. One of which was in the Group, which was in Madison Valley, both of which fell into the property disaster that we saw in 2009. Between that time and now, I moved between a variety of leadership roles and consulting roles and so forth. And so I found Onyx in 2016 when I sort of joined as one of the first many business people to join the company. That was at the time mostly a company here, exclusively here in Missoula. It is a little ironic we're talking about Missoula success, and I just drove over from Boston where I live, but nevertheless, the introduction to Onyx turned out to be really a fantastic experience for me and really wonderful company, people, extraordinary mission, solid product. Well, and prior to coming out to Montana, I was in California where I had finished MBA, and before that I was a teacher in Vermont, and before that I had a horrible job on Wall Street, and before that I was an English major. So I've kind of covered a lot of bases on the way to where we are now, and hopefully in Montana is the last time I'll be to a teacher for you. I covered the bases.
Thanks, Josh. Hello, Ops guy. I'm an Ops guy myself. My name is Kate Pace. Welcome. It gives me great joy to welcome you all today. So thank you for being here. My career path, I am originally from Western North Carolina. I grew up just outside of Asheville and went to school at Appalachian State University. If you say Appalachian State, as Tom does, I know that you're not from that area. I graduated in 2009 with a double major in cultural anthropology and philosophy and religion. So naturally, I started bartending, which gave me one of the most exciting and thrilling careers of my life for the next 3, 4, 5 years. I'm a place-based person, and so I tend to gravitate toward places where I love the people and the outdoor activities. And so eventually that led me to Big Sky, Montana in 2012. And I've been in Montana ever since. I eventually got into the different side of operations, not always behind the bar. Various different things. Worked for a children's museum, now Science Center, a handful of kind of IT and other sales ops related jobs. And in 2019, in fact, 3 years ago, I'm celebrating my 3-year anniversary. I saw this position, which is the one I'm currently holding, open up. And it was the first time in my life I said, that job was made for me. And I still feel that way. I hope the rest of the organization does. But so I came on board and very quickly started to kind of block and tackle and get a view of this organization, which at the time was maybe 80 fewer employees. We now here in Missoula have about 300 individuals who call this place home. They're not always here. And now we have 3 buildings to kind of spread out amongst. So the role of operations is always changing. And that's one thing I love about it. I'll pass it on. I think final thing, I think one of the reasons that Tom did hire me was when I was explaining, giving my pitch. I said I was grant writing on one day and cleaning our 40-gallon indigenous fish tank the next day, so I can multitask, and that is a skill that I think we all treasure.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I am the founder of a company called Lumenad. I am from the super exotic land of South Dakota, which is usually the absolute end of that conversation. The game I like to play is to see what like connection somebody tries to make to South Dakota, like try to continue the conversation. It's usually like, oh, I drove through there once, or is Mount Rushmore in North Dakota or South Dakota, and stuff like that. It's in South Dakota. So my mom was born and raised in Anaconda, and so we would come out here for summers growing up, and the University of Montana is the only place that I applied. I came and checked it out when I was a freshman in high school, and I was like, oh, I love it, I'm going there. And that's what I did, and then yeah, I never left. I have an undergrad in accounting, and after I graduated, I went and worked for what was at the time Montana Community Development, now MoFi, and I thought that was a really cool way to use my business degree, as their sort of mission is to provide access to capital for economically disadvantaged entrepreneurs, which I thought was really, which is a very cool thing. And so I was there for a handful of years, and then I was interested in kind of like the technology scene, so I jumped and ran operations with being here for a company here in Missoula called GCS. They do custom software development for geospatial information systems, and I was the only person with a business degree in a office of about 25 software developers, and so I did that for a while. But I came from a family of serial entrepreneurs, brick and mortar type businesses, restaurateurs, food stores, stuff like that. So I knew really I wanted to start my own business at some point. And so I was just waiting to figure out what that was. And when I was at GCF, they were kind of experimenting with how to use location data, right? Like that's what GIS is, it's location data. And at that time, that was like 2013, 2014, when mobile advertising was a thing, and people were playing around with the Joinr API feeds and getting lat long coordinates off of tweets to then figure out like what kind of things you could infer about somebody's mood based on what they were tweeting and where they were at. So that project at GCS ended up going nowhere, but in that experience, I ended up learning that there's this whole massive world of technology first advertising that was totally unheard of to local businesses. And so that I wasn't interested in marketing graduating from college. I didn't know anything about it, but I just saw that there's a really big opportunity in the delta between what's possible in the world of advertising versus what's generally accessible to most marketers and small business owners was a big gap, and we could solve that beyond something. So we started in 2014. In 2019, Inc. magazine said that Lumenad was the 29th fastest growing startup in the country. And then we shut it all down a year ago, which is what I think I'm here to talk about. So, but I'll say that.
Okay, so next question, I'll just shout it out there. Is about the business. So you've already started to tell us a little bit, Ryan, so maybe you can kind of continue with that, just to give us an overview of how the business you work for or run got started and what the company does.
Yeah. So we started off as a services business. We back then in 2014, 2015, there was more technology emerging with marketing in a way that marketers could keep pace with. And so without going into too much detail, we essentially managed the technology side of technology first advertising. And we optimized into just running the media buying for agencies. And so really, since the early days, Lumenad has been a business that provides services and software to marketing agencies around the country. And that's kind of where we got our start. And in 2016, as we started to get a little bit bigger, we realized that in order to scale this, we had to start building our own software to automate a lot of these manual like time-consuming repetitive steps. And so we started building software. And over time, more and more people started to ask us about the software that we were using to do our own jobs. And we were like, oh, we should sell this. Seems easy. And that's how we sort of started getting into, it was more of a software business first and then supporting services. And I guess I probably don't want to get too far down the story. Is that a good setup?
That's good.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. Maybe we'll just go down the line.
One mic. So ATG, Cognizant, or Cognizant ATG, both are correct. I think we're probably moving towards Cognizant ATG. Welcome to the Cognizant Customer Success Campus. We all have to fix our muscle memory on that one because we lead with ATG a lot. Everyone here gets a pass. You can say it either way today. So every client that we work with is either seizing an opportunity or solving a problem, and we help our clients solve their business problems. We consult in the technology space, but that also includes the people and the process and the data that moves through any system. And so ATG actually was headquartered in Kansas City, Overland Park area. And I think primarily in the early days was focused on telecom. And so doing usage billing solutions kind of in that space. And in 2011, Tom Sturgis pitched to start a Missoula office. If you know Tom, you've heard his story, and I'm sure he'll tell you later over a glass of wine, but with 3 employees, kind of keeping that telecom client base over the course of 3, 4, 5, 10 years and a strong partnership with the University of Montana, we grew not only our headcount, but also our focus areas. And so when we talk about helping our clients and implementing software or talking through an advisory process that identifies, areas of efficiencies in their business, how they can more efficiently interact with their customers, increase revenue, decrease expense, these problems that we're trying to solve, we realize you can call us consultants, but we are working on business outcomes. And most of our clients are enterprise level clients. When we were acquired by Cognizant in 2018, the world got a lot bigger. The teams that we work and collaborate with within our larger parent company got more diverse. The business problems that we're being asked to solve are more complicated and attached to many other different systems. And so if you look through the space, and hopefully we'll get to take them towards later, in the downstairs training room, there's what's called the monetization ecosystem. And that's one of our ways of viewing the world, which is in any complex system, you interact with your customers, and there's kind of a lead generation box over here, and then how data moves through that into a complex coding or configuration cycle. We're experts at doing that. And at partnering with organizations that help train people from a wide variety of backgrounds to talk about that type of work better than I do.
So Onyx, it makes digital mapping and navigation products for outdoor adventurers. What that really means is we make apps, we make products that live on your computer, and maps that will help you if you're a hunter, if you're a hiker, a backpacker, a skier, an off-roader, etc. We have a map for you. But the company's story really begins probably in 2007 or 8, when our founder, Eric Siegfried, who lives here in town, found himself completely lost, hopelessly lost in the woods and terrified, actually, as a result of getting lost. And everybody here has probably been lost at one point, whether as a kid in the grocery store or out on an adventure, and you realize how uprooting and problematic that can be for anybody and how dangerous it can be. So Eric was an engineer, an HVAC mechanical engineer, a passionate hunter. He didn't want to be an engineer anymore. So he found a way to put data on a micro SD card that he could put inside of a handheld GPS unit to help it stay on track and not get lost again, and be more successful as a hunting guy. And people looked at this little thing he created and thought that's really fascinating. I want it. And so he was able to quit his jobs, and with enough money to buy a used film camera, he started the company in his like scrapbooking. And they were buying chips on Amazon, they were printing labels on their home printer and mailing them from their house and so forth. That's that initial investment that Eric put into the company at that time was enough to drive the company to profitability, just because the product he was making was so unique and very much desired and needed by his customers. It was called at the time Montana Mapping and GPS, which is great for SEO, but that's about it. And later became Hunting GPS Maps, same story. And eventually we became OnX Maps, which we now show with OnX. I think we're done. I think we'll stop there. But in terms of renaming the company, but in the early 2010s, it became apparent that these handheld GPS units were going to get surpassed by the phones that we all had in our pockets at the time. And to get to market quickly, the company outsourced the development and transition from these chip products to an app. It's really important to remember how to understand that the way these products were sold actually had a huge impact on the culture of the company at the time. The chip was sold in a package, and then we package them all up and send them to Sportsman's Warehouse or other places like that, and they would sell them to customers. So at the time, the culture was, you've got to get this data exactly right. It has to be perfect, but once it's sealed up in that little blister pack, it's shipped off and it's gone. We have no other way to deal with it. You can't revise it. So there was a culture of perfection and a culture of completeness that was really instilled in the company based on the way we connected our customers. With the advent of the app, and then later the advent of the subscription product, where you auto renew your membership to that app on there for your data days, and your information is saved, and you are never without need. That created a direct connection between company and customer, which we didn't have. And that enabled us, one, to be totally customer responsive, and it enabled us to take a little more risk, because if there's a mistake in the data, you can update the server and it gets automatically delivered to the customer, rather than having total disconnection from a customer who has a chip that they bought at a retailer. And that brought to the company creativity, risk tolerance, and customer responsiveness, as I mentioned, that really make it a tech company. It also happens that once you start to do those things, that's when growth really takes off. And that's where the company has led us to today, actually, where we have 3 flagship products for under operators and even power ventures. And we have a series of other products that we also have acquired and also serve mostly non-motorized as well. And we'll talk about this, I'm sure, a little bit later, but the company's mission is to awaken the adventurer within everyone. And that's a long way away from making a product that will keep you from getting lost in the woods when you're hunting. But if you follow what your customers want, that's kind of where it is.
Okay, so this next segment, I guess, is sort of about this year's big news, like the big things that are happening, the big changes that are coming down the pike. And so for each of you, maybe tell us about, you know, the big news that's happened, and what changes are potentially coming as a result. So we'll start here with Josh. Tell us about this year's investment, and then, you know, what lies ahead with that, especially here in Montana.
So we announced this year our $87 million Series B, and that comes on the heels of our Series A 4 years ago, 4.5 years. And a lot of the same investors putting money back in the company as they have followed along and are excited about the work that we're doing and want to deliver on that mission that we can venture everyone is a big job, right? A lot of people out there. All can and we hope will be adventurers. And there are all different ways of being an outdoor adventurer, and there are all different skill sets and different tool sets that they all need. That's the magnitude of that job is what drives or what drove us to raise additional capital. The company intends to continue hiring both in Montana and wherever the best talent might be located. Hopefully we can bring them in when appropriate. And but we really look at the creating value for our customers is sort of the intersection between great technical, innovative solutions, amazing data, and excellent design. And so it's really that investment will drive all of those elements, because it's not just the data company, it's not just the technology company. It is one that really thinks about the user experience, not just when you're tapping on the glass of your phone, but what is it that tapping the glass, the phone, that map, that information that you're looking at, what is it going to enable? And as we diversify the things that we enable to do, it requires a greater investment. We're really fortunate in a company that the business itself is healthy and is profitable and is really self-sustaining at this point. And so it really for us was an opportunity to be able to pursue a whole lot of other areas that we want to keep the company operating. It would be harder to pursue, but now we would go and look for this big solution with products and hopefully great experiences to
Okay, so Kate, tell us about this building. What's going to be happening here? You told us a little bit already, but maybe what more could you layer on to give us insight into what's ahead for Cognizant ATG?
Thank you, Christina. This is just the beginning. We're just getting started. So I think a couple things. First off, you all being here tonight and having a reason to have an event is very good practice for us. So thank you once again for being here. I think hopefully when all the engines are oiled and we're looking good, we have regular community events and a cadence with the High Tech Alliance and other business and educational leaders in the state once a week. We'll see. So I think it's important to note as we talk about growth and as you see noted kind of on the agenda today, that the economic impact being called out in the last year around $122 million because of our operations in Montana. We are very interested in understanding the layers of impact behind that growth, with the motivation that it should be positive impact for our employees, for our customers, for the community in which we live and work, and also for Cognizant, making sure that, you know, the reason that we were acquired is not only fulfilled, but that we're looking ahead to anticipate not only how we work more closely together with them, but then exactly what that means for the business as a whole. So we have now 2.5 floors in our Yellowstone office space, which is just down here. We have this full level, and I hope I'll get to take most of you on a tour later, but the first and second floors of this east wing, which we're calling East Glacier and West Glacier, might have guessed, serve very specific needs. And I'll tell you, when I started in November of 2019, and Tom said to me, one of your key roles is going to be driving and managing this physical expansion. And so connecting, the needs of the business to the contractor group and architects and Cognizant and budgeting and making sure, we have not only a line of sight, but input going both ways on what we needed. I thought, oh, great, yeah, he's throwing me an easy one. That should be a fun new project. And then very shortly after, as we were bringing on cohort 3, which most of you are probably aware, in partnership with the University of Montana, we have a 12-week paid training program. And right now, about 60% of our local employees are graduates of that program. So it's called AIM Hire. The third cohort was graduating in February of 2020. And it was at that exact moment that we ran out of physical office space. And previous director of operations, Carrie Davis, and I were kind of scratching our heads and really somewhat frantically wondering where we would go next. We toured a school in East Missoula, thinking about how that could serve our employees and could we get a school bus and make sure, we're kind of connecting all the dots between the campuses. And as we are, furiously planning and dreaming, suddenly the world came to a screeching halt, and we were all met with the disruption that the last 2 years have kind of brought. And one thing we talk about a lot is it a light switch? Is it a dimmer switch? How are we anticipating and adapting to change? And so not everyone could have predicted how the next 2 years played out, but certainly my responsibility to inform the design of this current facility had to be investigated from a variety of different angles. And so we, the business, were provided a couple important checkpoints to say, what is this? Who is it serving? How is it going to be, the key access point for not only your employees, but the community, for Cognizant, for local businesses and organizations like the High Tech Alliance, to serve all of our stakeholders. You're all here tonight, so you can help me envision how we continue to adapt and change into the year ahead and use this space. But one thing that we know is that our employees have kind of given us a benchmark for how they want to engage. And a lot of that, when we first put out the survey, was based on the physical space that we had across the street, which was purpose-built for that kind of reality of we need space, cram and invest. We have a handful of meeting rooms that aren't necessarily as inspired as the space here. When employees come in and see the space, they want to be here to collaborate. We hope that the community, our partners, the university, find that same home here, where there is comfortable space, agile space that's well connected, inspired ability to, take a walk, bring your dog, go visit in the summer months when kids are at summer camps across the street, check in with your kids. We think that this is a benchmark for the future work, and we welcome your comments. One of the things that I think we're also very aware of when we talk about growth and impact is reach. And in the state of Montana, knowing that we 56 counties, 8 tribal nations, and how can we connect the hub of economic opportunity and jobs and training to all areas of the state by partnering with educational institute, the university system and businesses to discuss what we're seeing, what the needs are, and conversations that Christina and others have helped facilitate about how we all show up at the table to make sure we're filling in the gaps, and telling the story, making it relatable and accessible about how could people take part in what we think is the future of work.
Yeah, okay, so I'm trying to think where I left off. I guess I'm just gonna tell the story in chapters. This is chapter 3. 2022 was a really big year for Lumenad, right? We, from 2016 to 2021, we were a software supported services business. And that's a really interesting journey. We knew when we started selling software, people were telling us that this is fraught with peril. There's lots of businesses that have tried to start off with services, transition to software, and we're like, yeah, I'm sure that was hard for you, but we've got this. No problem, easy. And yeah, we made all of the mistakes. And so first of all, if there's anybody out there who's running a services business and you're thinking about spinning off a software business, you should definitely call me and we should chat about it. It's such a, and you know, fast forward today, it ended up, you know, it's working out really well. It's just that where we're at today is so different than where we thought we would be. And so ultimately, software plus services under one go-to-market, under one brand is really hard. That's a lot of things to do with one sales team, one support team, et cetera, et cetera. And our goal with it was to be this 1 + 1 = 3 business, right? And you know, be the technology, the process, and the people for the modern operating system for running these complicated technology first ad campaigns. And that was great. And we because we have a services business, we have a lot of cash to also just grow and grow, right? And so as we were running up against problems, we would just throw money at it by hiring more people and spending more money. And our customers would love the software, except what they really ended up loving at the end of the day was our people that were paid to run the software for them. And because we were started off as services first, you know, we didn't have a technical co-founder. We started just slowly building software over time, and we kept building on top of it, and building on top of it, and building on top of it, where we had this really complicated, immense thing on a pretty shaky foundation that was not scalable. And so in 2021, as we were limiting our services revenues growth because we were trying to tell the story through the lens of software, we were realizing that we were, you know, it was not 1 + 1 = 3, it was more like 1 + 1 = 1.5, and there was some capital destruction there. And so we made a super difficult choice this time last year. I remember I took Bozeman to meet with Will Price. Experts here led the Series C in Lumenad in 2019. And I was like, well, I don't think we're on a trajectory for growth. I think we need to press the reset button. I'm sorry, let me repurchase your shares. And to that guy's credit, big shout out to Experts here. Those guys are amazing. I think the world of Will Price. They totally understand. We purchased the shares. They didn't lose money. They made a couple bucks, but it's by no means a success in their eyes. But we pretty much just repurchased the shares and started over. And we split Lumenad is now split into 2 businesses. We took the services business and called it Pathlabs. And that is a company that, you know, how they were free from having to tell their story through the lens of software and can just be super crystal clear on what they're doing, which is they provide. So again, so I don't run Pathlabs. We have a separate management team for Pathlabs. They're a team of about 100 people. It's run by this guy named Will LaPointe, who's a couple years younger than me, and has built this management team that is totally incredible. They just partnered with agencies to run this. They pretty much power their advertising, except they just do it all with the people, and they don't try to sell software along with it. And what they say is they remodel agencies from the inside out. Again, agencies make great marketers. They're very, very, they have a hard time managing the systems, the processes, and scaling, and everything outside of the expertise of marketing. And so Pathlabs just does that one thing. They do it very, very well. They're about 100 people today. They'll be at about 130 people this time next year. So they're on a trajectory. The software side of what was Lumenad is now called Joinr. And when we made the decision to split the business, we decided that we couldn't scale with the software that we had, and we needed to fundamentally rebuild it. And when we did that, we also made a decision to rethink what our software strategy was going to be entirely. So we called all of our customers and we said, we're going to give you a year to transition off. but we're sunsetting the software and we're not going to tell you whether you want to be available. Which was super hard to do. It was awful. It was difficult. And so we are literally starting over with this software called Joinr. We've rebuilt it. It's an MVP, but we're going to do it very, very slowly and do it the way that a software startup should be done, which is not necessarily just throwing a bunch of people and money at the problem. We're going to focus on doing zero the right way. So what's interesting about, Lumenad, this holding company, is that, we have an immense amount of freedom and flexibility because we bought out all of our investors. And so it's this, highly profitable, the entity itself is highly profitable because it's Pathlabs. We're not investing a bunch of money in capital destructive ways in software that isn't generating a return. So we're really excited about having that time and that space, and that flexibility to figure out how to do this the right way. So Lumenad, the holding company, is, probably won't be a brand much longer. We'll probably change that name. And what we do with that holding company level is still something that we're going to figure out. We don't know if we're going to go become more of an incubator or look more like private equity. We don't know, but there's going to be a handful of assets underneath that holding company that will grow over time.
That's awesome. Okay. What are some of the biggest challenges that your companies are facing right now? And if you're trying anything to solve those, feel free to share. But what are the challenges that you're all facing right now?
Sure. I hope I don't regret saying this, but after the last 3 years, running a business in that environment over the last 3 years with all of the craziness that happened, I feel like we can kick any challenge's ass. And it's easy from here on out. I know I'm gonna regret saying that, but no. So the last couple of years were so difficult, and so much has changed that I'm joking, but that was a comment on how difficult the last couple of years are, and it feels like the dust is settling a little bit. Yeah, of course, there's some economic headwinds coming, but really, it feels good to be, having the dust settle on some of that. What is the future of work going to look like? We're very much so, all in on the hybrid model. We think that, we're headquartered in the Florence building, and we'll be there for a while. We don't like the idea of forcing anybody to come back to the office, but we want to lure people back in for when they want to. And we think there's a place for in office. There's kind of a place for remote. So it's not a one size fits all. It's what works for each individual employee, but we're feeling like that's the dust is starting to settle onto that.
Thanks, Ryan. That's encouraging. We can do anything. Bring it on. Yeah, and I think one common thread that we've heard is reaction in the face of change. So whether that's moving the chip to the cloud, or how we do a hybrid right, which is certainly a big challenge and one that is front of mind for us. The adaptability quotient is key, and that can be very mature in a lot of our leaders and a lot of our new talent as well, but understanding how we communicate in a world where things are changing so quickly and how we prioritize. So, for instance, we've got a variety of people that likely, well, let me zoom out. When you're facing change and, evolution, not only the way that we work, but, macroeconomics and the key needs of our society, and Jackie, like you say, climate change and how businesses are responding and holding themselves responsible for ESG and then how that works through their employees and how their employees show up for the company. We solve problems better when we have a diverse group of folks at the table. And so I think one of our key problems, and I'm going to frame it like an opportunity, is making sure that the entry points to join our team are as diverse as the people that we want. So whether that's, we can talk about the AIM-HIRE program and the 160 individuals that we currently celebrate that from a wide variety of backgrounds have come up and are now world-class technology consultants. We also want to make sure that we have a step that's a little bit easier here for some folks that didn't feel like the rigor of a 12-week, dedicated 30, 40 hours a week was a step that they can easily take. We want to have, and that's why we're working with Accelerate Montana on kind of a first step into that, which is a little more accessible and flexible and hopefully meets people where they are. At the same end, we want to attract talent that is a little more experienced. And so in this great shuffle that we've seen over the last 2 years, how do we as a company not only clearly communicate our core values and our mission, but how are we living that every day? And how are our employees the best ambassadors of that in what they're doing and thinking? And I think just having open conversations, right? Making sure that we create space for business leaders and people, nonprofit leaders, Grant and the MEP and Christina, to just show up in open conversation about that. I think is the key thing. It's one of the reasons I'm so excited that we are having in-person events again, is just getting folks in a room can be a little less structured and allow open exchange of ideas that I think we know we solve problems better when we're all thinking together and putting the creative brain power behind them.
I think the hybrid work issue is one of the challenges that we face. Obviously, we're all fighting the same thing here. I find myself not certain if that's a big challenge or a small challenge. For us, at least, the transition to hybrid work happens in the context of a whole lot of other changes and a lot of other transitions. 6 years ago, when I joined the company, it was about a 10th size. Everybody was in a building on Brook Street. They all showed up at 8 o'clock and they took an early lunch and say what you want about that kind of routine, but everybody had shared experience. Everybody was in the room together and culture and management was accomplished. When we opened up the Bozeman office, which at first was just me and an extra bedroom in my house, and then ultimately became a small office. We began the hybrid journey of the development that every meeting had to have conference attached to it because we had to dial in from the office, we began hiring. This is all pre-pandemic. Remote folks as well, and obviously the pandemic, we all went home. Since then, I would say probably 40% or so of our employees live in Montana, and even those who do live in Montana don't want to come into the office. And so I don't want to come into the office either. And I think we all talk about, how do you maintain culture in this hybrid environment? And I think that the word culture is this like massive bucket that we just throw things into. It almost doesn't mean anything between the way I might use it and somebody else. I think the real challenge around hybrid work for us, at least, is management, because you have brand new employees who have maybe never met their managers, for whom modeling different kinds of work is really challenging when people are remote. It's almost as though the cliche about the people in the dark touching the elephants. They're all touching the same elephant, but one person has the trunk, and the person has the foot, and the other person has the tail. And we're all describing parts of the same thing, but don't have the ability necessarily to come together and talk about what that really is. And I think that poses a great challenge for management, because in a company like ours, culture, we're really lucky that we have a really central passion, all of us do. And it's very easy, it's not very easy. It is easier to build a culture on that passion, and to build those management competencies when it's touching the part of development seems to be a bit of a challenge. And so this is the year we're really investing in training up our managers 10 times bigger than we used to be. Over 300 people, a lot of managers now. And that they're the joints, if you will, in this very complicated machine, and they have to be, they're critical, and we have to really focus on that. I think
Yeah. K-12 education and our two-year colleges, our universities in this state are a vital source of talent for our tech workforce. Could you tell us more? I mean, some of you have already talked a little bit about this, but tell us about the way that your company is partnering with education. And we'll start with Josh for now.
We do we have an intern program for engineering primarily, sometimes with some product management interns as well. And I think we draw as much as we can on our local educational institutions as well. I have some aspirations, if you will, they're not real yet. But when I was at Stanford University, has a really incredible cultural pillar that connects the entrepreneurs who are all about it. Students. They create curriculum, they critique projects, they come around and they become professors, and they really make the curriculum. It's really easy, relatively easy to teach debits and credits and accounting. It's really easy to teach core computer science or operations or marketing. But it's a lot harder to teach people how to do this first and how to be efficient principles. Lean everything really hard when applied to businesses, and I think that the business community, when integrated with those education and the students there, can really do that. So that is my aspiration. As soon as we can kind of be able to put us heads down, I want to start with the overview process and kind of education so we can be able to bring that reality in the long run. I want Onyx to be sort of my call reference company. If you want to learn how to be a consumer product manager or developer, you go to Google. If you want to create operations, you go to Amazon. And if you want to be great in finance, there are a whole host of investment banks you might go through, the principal investment companies. I want Onyx to be one of those companies for mobile subscription and consumer subscription companies as well. And that requires us to build internally capacity for institutions. So that's kind of a long vision. We're not there yet, hoping we can take the next steps.
Great. A handful of things to say about this, so let me narrow it down. I think, first off, I want to thank David Berg, who's here. In an initial conversation with Tom Sturgis, they realized that the University of Montana School of Business was training very bright young minds to do the work that we do. And before this connection was made, was sending those individuals out of state to work for some competitors like Deloitte and Accenture, and that we're now chasing closely on the heels of as a Cognizant company. So having conversations in your local community about educational opportunities and connecting the dots is key. And I would also just highlight that the first step is inspiring, right? We can talk about the need to form partnerships in education and meet people where they are, but I think even whether it's K through 12 or individuals re-entering the workforce or reskilling or retraining, is telling stories that help individuals understand I'm here now and I can take these steps to get to this place, and I can see myself in that. I can see myself thriving in that place. And I challenge us and all of us to continue to tell that story better. One of the goals of the workforce committee is bringing color to personal experiences that result in individuals like in high school, thinking about going to college, re-entering the workforce, say, oh, I can see myself, I have skills that with training could translate into jobs in technology that would allow me to prosper from where I am in the state of Montana. And so in addition to Cognizant and ATG's partnership with the University of Montana, one thing that I'm incredibly proud of is our work to connect funding in the Cognizant US Foundation to the Montana AIMS program, which is the American Indians in Math and Science program, which is a summer camp run by Dr. Erin Thomas on campus, and reaches our Native American middle school students and now expanding into high school students with that inspiration piece. So making it, okay, I can see how I can apply these critical thinking, general kind of STEM hands-on activities into a life that I enjoy doing these things, and that I could then connect the dots on carrying that through into what I might study at UM. This grant award that we recently announced on Thursday also funds a new program, which I think is critically important, called the Native First Year Experience, which is providing a community of support for Indigenous students that are attending the university in their first year. I think this is a critical audience to not only inspire, but to highlight how this first year experience can then translate into individuals that want to be back in the communities where they have family, where they were raised, and can share opportunity, the story of opportunity about how there are training programs at various different levels in partnership with a hope to expand to more community colleges and tribal colleges across the state to catch and inspire a wide variety of individuals, no matter where they are in their journey, and really tell the story of what's possible.
Wow. That's awesome. We're not that far along on that path yet. But seriously, ATG, that's amazing. What relatively little we're doing right now is in the footsteps of what you guys chartered and the blueprints you guys drafted, partnering with you on a long time ago, right? So hats off to you guys, right? Because you validated the model that we're following. And we believe at, so I'll speak for Pathlabs, which is, on a hiring trajectory right now. The talent in Montana is as strong as anywhere and as rich as anywhere. If you get closer to the students and you can work with them longer to identify and source the ones who are like as driven, as creative, as ambitious, and as talented as anyone else, if you can get closer to the students while they're in school. And that is an absolute strategic advantage, as we found, if you can identify those students. And so we partnered with the business school, and we run a class called Digital Media Execution in the marketing program on campus. And so just at UM, we're just starting conversations with MSU, but it's a really interesting profession. Half the reason that Pathlabs is successful is because we just have a really big training program that allows us to take entry-level students and teach them the skill sets. It's otherwise an industry that moves and evolves so quickly that it's just very, very, very difficult for people to source talent. And lucky for us, people just want to be in Missoula and want to be in Montana. So we've had an relatively easier time in that universe than a lot of other folks. And so it's a good class on campus, is something that we're very proud of. We've been refining it for a couple of years, and it's turned into a very, very, very key component of our hiring, because we just would not be able to go identify experienced people elsewhere. We just are having more success teaching students that skill set. And then Pathlabs is working on formalizing a program that's not just for on campus, but it's also for people who are looking to make a career transition. Again, a lot of the stuff modeled after what ATG's done, but they're calling it your path. It's going to be something that gets graded and talked about a little bit more for years to come.
Very cool. I want to give our audience an opportunity. If you have a burning question, raise your hand and ask. Are there discounts for Onyx subscriptions?
They're
They're out there. Talk to Josh later. Might get recruited into a focus group.
I actually have a question. I think there is a conversation now more about hiring talent rather than a specific degree. Just a little bit about me. Christina mentioned I graduated with the BFA in creative writing. And so of course, being a humanities major, you always hear like, what are you gonna do with that? How do you apply that? And so I'm curious, when your companies are hiring, are you looking more for those soft skills? Are you looking more for a specific major? How do you usually approach that when you're engaging with former students or current students?
I'll jump in here and just add a little bit, but you guys can expand on it. For us, it's very much so. There's not one specific path to get to a set of skills. It can be through a 4-year degree. It can be absolutely not, and jumping right from high school into a profession that you have, or some set of skills that you've learned yourself, and you've just leaned into it for years and years and years. We do not hard code a specific sort of path that you need to follow to qualify for a job at Pathlabs.
Absolutely agree with that. And I'm one version of it. I think that, you know, we have traditional pathways like hiring out of BMIS at the University of the School of Business at the University of Montana, or others, as we recruit folks to think about Missoula as one of the best places in the world to live and stay. When we talk about our entry level employees and folks that we're considering for our training programs, which, as I mentioned, right now, AIM is kind of the key training program, but we just launched a rapid training program in partnership with the Accelerate Montana group to do just a first step into a Salesforce admin. And so when we're looking at strong candidates for those more kind of diverse entry level programs, the soft skills are the key skills, right? And so we have a wide variety of backgrounds. There's some folks that have a coding career, they've gone to coding school, and others that are managers of coffee shops or gyms, or, you know, the warehouse at Big Sky, and ability to work in teams, ability to problem solve, ability to adapt and react, and general kind of critical thinking are the key things. And generally you can pull a lot of those out in conversations. And so we look for folks that are eager, willing to be creative. And I think that teaming aspect is probably one of the key ones. If you see Kim Corwin around here somewhere, she's lead for our AIM Hire program, and I'm sure she'd love to talk a little bit more about the key things that our recruiting teams look for, but soft skills and adaptability are key.
We're a little bit odd in that we don't have, I would say, distribution of our position. Of a lot of them are in the middle of sort of career arc, and not as many at the beginning of the career. But that said, we have 7 company values, and we look at how people are able to express themselves in the context of those values. We look at what people's experiences are, how they make them relevant to what we are trying to do as well, and how they might bring creativity to problem solving as well. I too am not right on central casting. Business school, I took a math camp before I went there, and I took poets finance, and here I am, CFO of a whole company. And so you don't have to come to central casting if you're able to articulate yourself, if you're able to find a fish who fit, and if you're able to be customer first creative process.
I feel like finance for poets, like there's some sort of like branding or content opportunity there that we might have to explore. In these last 3 minutes, I'd like to give you each a minute and an opportunity to kind of cast a final vision. What do you see ahead for your company, for Montana's high tech community, looking ahead to the next year?
So we all know about the economic headwinds that space, like the recession, etc. But I think as you look out at the tech company, there's a tech company landscape. There's a similar story, and we're in this cycle right now where tech companies are perhaps deservedly losing trust and have a need or an opportunity to rebuild trust, you just turn on, look at your feed, you're gonna find examples of fraud perpetrated. Solipsistic management and completely absent governance, and these are terrible things that want to capital on the jobs evaporating right now, and perhaps deserve to be parts of the mainstream tech industry are losing our faith and trust. And I think Montana tech companies have an opportunity to be the opposite of that, to be real problem solvers, to solve real needs for customers, to address real needs for customers, to stick with problems, to be efficient and resourceful, to build relationships, and to be a solid example of what technology can deliver when it's done well. And so I think we in Montana, by virtue of our distance, by virtue of the natural culture that we all care about as we live here together, I think we lean into that and be a model for mainstream tech companies that right now are in a pretty ugly stage of their business cycle.
Leaning into the technology ecosystem. So we have a worldview that we often characterize in ecosystems. The monetization is one, and one that we often talk about in addition, and very complementary to that is Montana's technology ecosystem as a force that can be the rising tide that lifts all boats. I would challenge all of us to consider our role in that, whether it's business leaders that we have here today, leaders in higher education, some kind of horizontal leaders like from the state of Montana and our nonprofit sector, some that are focused specifically in this area in Missoula County and some that are zoomed out to other parts of the state. But we see the year ahead as one where conversations have been forming in the last 2-3 years that were potentially put on ice as we reconsider how we engage, especially with rural and tribal areas. I think we are moving into a year of doing, and some of the initiatives and opportunities that we've been talking about in partnership are ripe to start seed in other areas of the state. And so if you all here tonight have thoughts or ideas about how we might do that well together, please bring them forward either directly or through Christina and the workforce committee. I'm excited about the year ahead, and I hope that ATG Cognizant ATG and this physical space will be the hub for many more incredible conversations about just that. Thank you.
Yeah, for Lumenad, it's the next couple of years is going to be all about sort of sharpening what it is our vision is going to be. You know, over the last year and a half, we almost came to a point where we're like, well, geez, should we just like sell it and we shut it down? And we were like, well, no, we've learned so much, and we've got our butts kicked so much that at this point now we're just getting started. And the thing that I've had a lot of fun with over the last 7 years is seeing just how impactful getting the right group of people together, and how making the right couple of hires can be to unlock something really impressive. And I just have a ton of fun doing that. And so over the next couple of years, I see myself or the holding company being just like, I just want to be a people business, find super cool people and solve really interesting problems. And there's going to be some successes like Pathlabs, and some will be experiments, but it's going to be a couple of years of experimentation to figure out what we really want that vision to be.